Hello, good afternoon, namaste. A very warm welcome to all our participants from India as well as abroad. My name is Bhumika and I am from the National E-Governance Division Digital India. And today I will take you through the various steps of this very last webinar of Aero India Webinar Series 2019. Today is the 10th webinar of this pre-event webinar series. These pre-event webinars have been conducted as a collaborative effort of Department of Defense Production, Ministry of Defense, and NEGD Digital India, Ministry of Electronics and IT. I'm sure you have enjoyed all these webinars and have gained immense knowledge. As you might know, this was the very first time such webinars have been conducted by Aero India, and we at Digital India are very proud to be associated. As the previous webinars are already available on YouTube, Digital India Learning channel, you can view all those webinars there as well. For today, I have Mr. Dan Gillian, Vice President from Boeing. He's joining us from Washington, D.C. office. He's the main speaker for today and will give us interesting insights on the topic creating a globally competitive ecosystem for fighter manufacturing in India. Also joining us is Brigadier Pradeep Arora from Department of Defense Production, joining us from NEJD studio here in Delhi. And he will give us an overview of today's webinar topic and give us a detailed introduction of our speaker today. Before I hand over to Brigadier Arora, I would also share some housekeeping rules. So as you see on your screen, this webinar would be for 1 hour and would conclude at around 5 p.m. Microphones and cameras for all the others other than the speaker should be muted. There is a chat option on the screen. You can share your concerns regarding all the audio, video, any settings issue or anything. There is a question answer session as well. Any questions related to the technical part of the webinar, any content related questions, you have any questions particularly for our speaker, you can put that in the question answer session. If the time permits, I would also allow people to go live on for their questions at the end of the presentation. There is a poll at the end. I will flash the poll and please go rate the webinar quality on this poll. Also, as you know, I already mentioned there is live YouTube streaming going on. I'll share the link shortly. With this, now I hand over to Brigadier Pradeep Arora to introduce the topic and our speakers in the detail. Over to you, sir. I think there is some technical problem. Brigadier Arora would start in a bit.
Good
Brigadier
afternoon,
Arora,
viewers.
yeah, please.
On behalf of DDP and Aero India, I welcome you all to today's webinar, which is 10th in the series of webinars preceding Aero India 2019 edition. This webinar is being delivered by Mr. Dan Gillian, an expert in defense aerospace industry, who has joined us from Washington, D.C. So Dan Gillian is Vice President of FA-18 and EA-18G programs for strike, surveillance, and mobility. He is responsible for customer satisfaction and the quality, cost, and schedule performance of every facet of the FA-18 family of strike fighters and electronic attack aircraft. Gillian leads all activities associated with program development, production, and support for FA-18 and EA-18G aircraft systems. Prior to this role, Gillian was Director of International Supplier Management for Defense, Space and Security, where he managed the BDS international supply chain to support strategic growth and affordability objectives. Gillian has led acquisition and strategic planning programs of the P-18 production program for the US Navy and Australia. Before that, Gillian served as Director of Enterprise Sourcing for Boeing in India. During that assignment, Gillian was responsible for developing supplies in India, aligning Boeing defense systems and Boeing commercial airplane tactics with Boeing strategy in India and managing day-to-day execution of the company's work at various India suppliers. He began his Boeing career in 2000 as a manufacturing and systems engineer in the company's training systems and services organization before moving on to the current F-18 program as supplier program manager in 2004. From 2006 to 2007, he was Advanced Mission Computing Production Integrated Product Team Leader, leading a team tasked with developing and producing various avionics components for F-18, the T-45 Gosha, and AV-8B Harrier II programs. He is well read and holds a master's degree in business administration from Washington University and a Bachelor of Science degree in aerospace engineering from University of Notre Dame. William is today going to deliver a talk on creating a globally competitive ecosystem for fighter manufacturing in India. Indian aerospace ecosystem has potential to manufacture a world-class fighter for the Indian Armed Forces as well as for the export markets. This will require building on the ecosystem that exists today in public and private enterprises, and alongside creating capabilities through skill development, innovation, engineering, and globally competitive supply chain. So let's go ahead and hear from our expert on the subject. Over to you, Mr. Gillian. May we have your webinar, please.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about building a fighter ecosystem in India. As you mentioned, I've got a long history working with India to build fighters. Back in 2008, we placed the initial F-18 parts in India for manufacture. I was living in Delhi at the time and placed that contract. And so it's really an honor to be here today talking about building the Block 3 Super Hornet in India and how Boeing's approaches a challenge like that. It's really based on our decade of success in India, building an ecosystem, and building a fighter in India is a natural extension of the work we've done to date. We're really excited to be doing this webinar today in lead up to Aero India, and I hope to have a good discussion here as we talk through our approach. Let's go to the next chart, please. I thought I'd start a little bit with some information about the Block 3 Super Hornet program. Maybe not all of you are aware that we will be building Block 3 Super Hornets and delivering them to the US Navy and international air forces through 2033 as the current program stands. The Block 3 Super Hornet is a next generation airplane. It is an evolution of our Block 2 Super Hornet, which was introduced in 2007. But there are some really revolutionary capabilities that come through this Block 3 program, specifically longer range, improved stealth performance, data fusion, integrating new sensors to be a next generation fighter for the US Navy and air forces around the world. It and F-35 are the US Navy's frontline fighters and will be for decades to come. We're really excited to be building and delivering airplanes to the Kuwaiti Air Force this year. The Australian Air Force already flies the Super Hornet and Growler. And great customers there, and we look forward to partnering with them in the future. Significantly, the Block 3 Super Hornet will also continue the Super Hornet success, delivering the lowest cost per flight hour of any airplane in the U.S. inventory. It's a very affordable, economical airplane to operate. So it's a next-gen platform with a long life in front of it, and we think it's the ideal platform for a Make in India project. Because it is the most stealthy and advanced airplane in the competition, with a large supply chain. Currently, over 800 suppliers build components for the Super Hornet, and that scope and size of a supply chain ecosystem in the U.S. and around the world, including India today, we think makes a great platform to build an ecosystem in India for India, whether it's the Indian Navy, India Air Force, or others. We have the supply chain experience building this platform to bring that to India. We're really excited to be talking about the platform with the Indian Navy and the Indian Air Force. Let's go to the next chart, please. So this one chart summarizes our approach for building a globally competitive fighter ecosystem in India. I'll start with the vibrant supply base. So as I mentioned, over 800 suppliers, over 60,000 jobs in the US around the world today building Block 2, Block 3 Super Hornets, Growlers, and again, we'll continue that out into the 2030s. That supply base includes large and small companies. Some of our large partners like Northrop and Raytheon, General Electric, build significant components for the platform, the back end of the airplane, the engines, the radar, all the way down to small businesses. And as we think about the future, that inclusion of small businesses to bring innovative new ideas to the platform is something we're really excited about in the Block 3 Super Hornet, both for the U.S. Navy and for international customers. So strong existing supply chain, including in India, over 100 suppliers in India building parts for Boeing platforms. I'll talk about some specific F-18 examples here in a bit, but we have a good history in India. We're excited to be expanding that with our current and future work. If I move down and around, nurturing innovation. We have been partnering with India for years now to develop some of the skills necessary to bring innovative new solutions to all of our platforms and to the Boeing ecosystem in general. Some good progress there with advanced manufacturing techniques and new innovative concepts around unmanned aircraft. We're really excited about our partnership with India on this front. I'll talk about that specifically a little bit later. Support and sustainment. This is another good news story as multiple Boeing platforms, both commercial and defense, are being supported in India by India today. That is the concept we bring with a Block 3 Super Hornet sale. We think this is an area where India has a ton of growth potential. Again, the Super Hornet's already the lowest cost platform in the U.S. inventory, tactical fighter platform. And that concept is what we bring to India as India supports its airplanes and learns how the Super Hornet achieves that lowest cost per flight hour standing. Great opportunities for continued partnership. I'll talk about that a little later. Access to engineering talent is obvious when you're talking about partnering with India. We are really excited about expanding our engineering footprint in India. I'll talk some specifics there a little later in the briefing, but we have great people in India supporting all of our programs and platforms today, and we're really excited about expanding our presence in Bangalore with some exciting news coming here later in the brief. And then continuous skill advancement. This has been, I'll call it some of the grassroots effort we've done with India over the years. Teaching mechanics that work in factories in India, building components for us, teaching the teachers so that we call it train the trainer, to expand overall aerospace knowledge, building that foundation that starts with the people in factories, turning wrenches to build products. We've seen great progress there with some of the components on F-18. I'll talk to those later. And then in general, as the aerospace ecosystem grows. And then on the top, world-class infrastructure. And this is what everyone talks about usually when they're talking about a Make in India fighter program. It's that final assembly and checkout facility where you build an airplane, it looks like an airplane, and you test fly an airplane and then deliver to a customer. We are envisioning a brand new factory of the future. We are not moving an old factory to India. We think this is the ideal time to build a brand new facility, state-of-the-art facility, leveraging all that we, Boeing, know and all that our partners know to deliver world-class capability in India for India. We're really excited to be talking about this holistic approach to building a globally competitive ecosystem. You cannot have an ecosystem without all 6 legs of the stool, so to speak. It has to be a comprehensive approach. Next chart, please. So this specifically is our Make in India Block 3 F-18 approach. Last year, we announced our partnership with HAL and Mahindra. We're excited to have HAL and Mahindra on board as our partners to build that final assembly facility where we will deliver. Both companies have large supply chains. Both companies have aerospace experience. HAL is unquestionably the leader in India today, building airplanes for the Indian services. We want to leverage that expertise and our decades-old relationship with HAL, building components for our commercial products as well as our defense products. And Mahindra, great manufacturing capabilities, bringing some of that innovative new thought into the partnership. Really excited to be working with both of them to build our fighter in India. But that's really just the beginning. And that area down below on the right, public-private industry, again, 800 suppliers, 60,000 employees. The opportunity to build a supply chain is huge. And the depth of that transfer to build that supply chain, that is really where the ecosystem comes from. It is not just that final assembly facility. It is the holistic approach all throughout the supply chain, large businesses, small businesses, pulling them together to get the best of India into the supply chain. On the left of this chart, I did want to point out, I said at the beginning, we do think Block 3 Super Hornet is the right platform for this concept because it's the most advanced, most stealthy airplane in the competition. We talk about that factory of the future there in the middle, and then the real opportunity. Yes, we will build Super Hornets in India for India. The opportunity is to help raise the ecosystem so that India can be successful with its AMCA program. And we think Super Hornet is the right platform to help India do that because of its stealth capabilities and how we build the airplane, the systems integration. And we're really excited about that long-term view, the long-term view to build an ecosystem so that India can build its next platform, AMCA. So you'll hear us talk about that more as we go forward. Next chart, please. This is the factory of the future that I talked about. This is just a simple overview of what we envision. Again, big partners like Northrop, Raytheon, GE, some of our other partners. We have brought them into India with us over the last couple of years, talking with the various partners that are available, building new relationships, transferring work to build this ecosystem. And we envision doubling down on that with this future factory, this future ecosystem. Additive manufacturing is an opportunity here. Engines, final assembly, obviously, subsystems and avionics. We know that there's great capability in India today that we can leverage, and we know that with a Block 3 Super Hornet transfer, we can help develop and foster some of those partnerships even further to bring new capability in. Really excited about this, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We are not proposing to transfer a factory from the United States to India. We want to build a new factory. We want to leverage all that we've learned about building Super Hornets and all that Boeing has learned about building airplanes at rate and at scale. So it's Boeing commercial with 737, 787, et cetera. Bring all of that knowledge to build a new world-class facility in India. It will be the premier facility for building Block 3 Super Hornets in the world when it's complete. Let's go to the next chart. I've talked about history, and this is a picture of that history. And 777 and 757 components for commercial go back well before 2008. But in 2008, we placed the first contract for a defense part in India. It was an F-18 component. It was the F-18 gun bay door. Again, I was living in India at the time, working with HAL to develop this project. And now as the program manager, I receive gun bay doors from HAL and install them on every Super Hornet I deliver today. If you look at some of those other things with Racel wire harnesses and SASMOS panels, Racel is a gold supplier for Boeing today in our supply chain, doing great work. And all three partners are delivering product today for every Super Hornet I build and deliver for the US Navy or for the Kuwaiti Air Force. So a strong foundation of fighter work in India that we've expanded over the last decade plus with work for P-8, 787, H-47, Apache, F-15. The list continues. We're really excited with our joint venture with the Tatas to build Apache fuselages. There's been some press about that lately. The only producer of Apache fuselages in the world, that scope and scale gives us confidence that we can build a fighter program in India for India. I talked earlier about the sustainment side, and we have our C-17 training center to support the Indian Air Force with their C-17s. We have engineering work, IT work, all the usual things, but a long history for Boeing of manufacturing and assembling large-scale components in India with Indian industry, both public sector and private sector. This is what gives us confidence that we can execute a Make in India program. Today, we're procuring more than $1 billion a year from India for our aerospace ecosystem. You don't stand that up in a day. It took us a decade working with various partners to build with the scope and scale we have today. And you cannot just flip a switch and start building fighters in India. But when you have a decade plus run up and you're buying $1 billion a year, the idea of scaling to build a fighter in India becomes really very appealing. And we certainly think very possible with either an Indian Navy or Indian Air Force procurement of the Block 3 Super Hornet. Let's go to the next chart, please. We talked a bit about this at the beginning, but training and partnership is a huge part of our engagement with India. You cannot just, again, drop in and start buying components. Building from the bottom up, we think, is the path to success and the right way to build an ecosystem. We have trained in partnership with NSDC a number of people there to support our products and products in general in India. We're working on the processes and technical development, the basic building blocks of how to do aerospace work, from how you coat and finish metal products to composite wires and harnesses, those types of technical skills. This is a long-term commitment that Boeing has made in partnership with India to train the next generation of Indian aerospace workers to be globally competitive and to build out that ecosystem. We're really proud of this work. It is benefiting our products, yes, but it is benefiting the Indian aerospace ecosystem in general. And I think gives us, again, confidence that we can build the skills to replicate that Super Hornet supply chain in India. And I'll say it again, but 800 suppliers, 60,000 people in the US and worldwide today building components. Obviously, you have to have a large training program in India to build that many people to support a Block 3 program in India. Next chart, please. Nurturing innovation. I think this is an exciting area when you think about partnership with India in particular. And I'll highlight two attributes of a Block 3 Super Hornet here. On the left side of this chart, you can see the main attributes of a Block 3, but open architecture, advanced computing. So the Block 3 brings open architecture and it brings large new computing infrastructure to the program. So this is how we do the large data correlation and fusion in the platform. And then India system integration. So there are great companies in India building avionics and systems for Indian airplanes today. We know and believe we will integrate some of those into India's offering, either the Navy or the Air Force, depending on those customers' preferences. And then if you look to the right of the airplane, you see that display. So part of the Block 3 Super Hornet is a new 10 by 19 inch flat panel display. Think of it as an iPad for your airplane. You can grab and move images around with your fingers like you can with an iPad. Next generation platforms will do that. And the pilots that are coming up today are very familiar with that technology. So it made sense for us to put it in the airplane. If you take those three things together, open architecture, that display, that iPad-like display for your airplane, and India systems integration, there are huge opportunities for us to partner with the Indian ecosystem and engineering capabilities to bring new capabilities to the platform. So think about developing apps for a fighter. There's a huge opportunity for India to participate and lead some of that innovation, bringing new capabilities online on timelines we've not seen before. So software updates to platforms can take some time. We're seeing an opportunity where you can see what's happening in the world and then write an app and bring it to the platform right now. That is something that we envision with India for the Block 3 Super Hornet program. The hardware in Block 3 is there. Now we just have to unlock the potential of large, medium, and small businesses in India to help develop those capabilities. We've had some experience there on the right side of the chart with our innovation approach in India. We've had several competitions, if you will, to unlock some great ideas that we're investing in and nurturing in unmanned spaces, some of the additive manufacturing spaces we talked about. This is an exciting new part of our partnership with India, and we think Block 3 is the perfect platform to take advantage of that investment we're making in India's innovation culture, which is really astounding. Let's go to the next chart. Support and sustainment. So Boeing and India partnered together on a number of platforms, from rotorcraft to commercial to C-17s and P-8s. And as part of that, we have stood up a large-scale infrastructure in India to support those platforms, be it training or sustainment and supportability. We think this is a huge opportunity with a Block 3 Super Hornet sale to develop that even further so that India can maintain its airplanes in India. Today, the Indian Air Force is realizing over 80% availability of its C-17 fleet. Today, the U.S. Navy is realizing over 80% availability of its deployed F-18s. These platforms are reliable, and we look forward to working with India to help foster an ecosystem that can achieve those same results in India by India. I think it's a huge opportunity. We understand that India wants to be able to repair and maintain its airplanes in India, and we're certainly supportive of that approach. And we think we have a track record with these other platforms that demonstrates our ability to deliver this capability to the Indian government. Lots of opportunity here. We are currently manufacturing components, as I said, for fighters, but fighter sustainment is a new and exciting area that we look forward to partnering with. We think almost all of the Super Hornet sustainment can be done in India by India. So great opportunity here. Let's go next, please. Engineering talent, of course, something that's always associated with partnership with India, and we're realizing that today. We have over 1,300 engineers in India today working on various Boeing products. Down in Bangalore, we are developing and building our campus, where we'll have over 2,000 engineers supporting a variety of Boeing programs over time. Today, we're doing core technology work. We're doing modeling and simulation, both in our facilities and with our partners. You can see them listed there. More than a decade of experience working engineering with these partners. We have also partnered with the IITs and the IISc, doing new and innovative work in India that benefits both India and Boeing, and also, of course, leveraging our 160 plus suppliers that are in India building components for Boeing platforms today. So it's a holistic engineering approach. We are excited to be opening our Bangalore campus. We think that really will accelerate our partnership on the engineering front. And that base, that 1,300 growing to 2,000 engineering base, gives us, again, great confidence that with a Make in India fighter program, we can expand our ecosystem to build and deliver those products on time and on cost for the Indian Navy or Indian Air Force. Really exciting space here. And if I go back to my beginnings in India in 2008, this is a very transformative thing we've gone through to really leverage the best of India for both Boeing and to help that ecosystem grow. Let's go to the next chart, please. Continuous skill advancement. So a partnership with Boeing is a story of continuous improvement and working together and collaborating to be better. And whether that's with our supply base, with the training programs we talked about, with the right blend of on-site support from Boeing, but really trying to train and foster our partners to be self-sufficient and to be an awesome part of our ecosystem by training the trainers. That's a long-term commitment Boeing makes to its partners around the world, and certainly something we envision here in India. We talked a bit about our engagement with academia and industry bodies. We think there is more opportunity here as Boeing continues to be a leader in India, developing this aerospace ecosystem. We're really excited about the acceleration of our partnership. And certainly, I think the U.S.-India relations are fostering and supporting a lot of that. And then down to the basics, we talked about this, but the frontline factory workers, building the skill sets of the Indian workforce, recruit and start early. So this is something we're doing around the world. Really have to go down and get people excited about aerospace, then help give them the skills they need to be effective in aerospace, and then connect them to meaningful jobs in the industry so that they're happy and you're getting a good workforce that can be a world-class workforce. We're seeing that today. Train the trainers is listed on the chart. And again, that's a big part of our approach. We don't want to just come in and do a little bit of training and leave. We want to teach and educate so that the Indian aerospace ecosystem is self-sufficient. And this continuous skill advancement, again, is a long-term view. It's a long-term investment. You don't just show up one day and have this. You have to build it in partnership collaboratively over time. I think Boeing has demonstrated that over the last decade, and we're certainly committed to this going forward. Whether we win a fighter program or not, this is how we engage with our supply base. Next chart, please. So I think that's it for my briefing. I'm certainly happy to open it up to questions.
Thank you, Dan Gillian, for such an informative session. Now we are open to questions. Could you please post your questions in the Q&A section? There is a question from Ashish Gaurav. The team at Washington, would you open the screen up there so that Dan can read the question?
Sure. I'm not seeing the question.
I will just allow Ashish to speak then. Ashish, you can speak now. Could you put up your question, please? Hello, Ashish.
I'll try and read it out.
Yeah.
Ashish Gaurav asks, to deliver quality products, rigorous testing as part of product development and validation is required. I want to ask, what are the testing infrastructure available at Boeing India? If Boeing India has any testing partner?
So when you talk testing, typically that's done in the partners that we're working with to build the components. So a first article inspection, functional tests, the test benches required to validate that you have a good part. We typically work that vertically with the partners that are building the components for us by shipping to a separate test house and facility. But that is part of that ecosystem we've developed to date as we're building and delivering components in India, that built-in test approach. Now, when you get to building an airplane in India, that final assembly and checkout flight test, certainly that's a strong reason why we have partnered with HAL and Mahindra, both of whom have aerospace experience building and testing airplanes. So that's it goes kind of both ways. There is the component level testing that happens down in the supply chain, and then the final event testing an airplane after being built before delivery is a real reason we have partnered with HAL and Mahindra as great partners there.
Thank you. There's next another question which I would like to read out, which has been posed by Rajiv. What kind of armaments will be configured on the FA-18 program, and who will do the testing and trials, etc., tuning and trials?
Okay, and I am now able to see the question, so thank you. Armament will really be picked by the Indian Navy or Indian Air Force. There are over 400 existing configurations cleared on the Block 3 Super Hornet. So that's a great basis for starting the discussion. But ultimately, the customers will decide which armaments they want. And then the testing and trials, obviously, our Boeing and our partners, HAL and Mahindra, will do our part in conjunction with the service to validate those. I should mention, of course, the U.S. Navy will have a big part there as well, as the U.S. Navy, Boeing, and the Indian Navy or Air Force work together to get that done.
Another question is, how do you support medium and small enterprises, companies in India for your projects in India?
Well, I'll answer macro, and then Ankur, I'll ask you to chime in here with some specifics if that's okay. But at the macro sense, again, those 800 suppliers that we currently have in our supply base range from very large corporations down to extremely small suppliers in the U.S. and abroad. That general approach is what we bring to India. Ankur, you want to give some specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. So good to be here. My name is Ankur Keneglikar, and I lead the strategy and business development for Boeing in India. Specific to micro, small, and medium enterprises, we have had great success in India. Dan earlier showed in his chart, Rossell, Texas. This is a company that manufactures wire harnesses for us. And this is the company has exceedingly done well on the cost, quality, schedule requirement for Boeing for the wire harnesses. And our approach is really simple. We want to make sure that the SMEs oftentimes require support and intense hand-holding to make sure that the products get delivered at the required quality levels. That is why you saw the skill development program where we do it proactively. We put our subject matter experts, we do train the trainers, we run classes at the SMEs where they get access to the right talent as it goes through the skilling program. So some of these things have worked really well in India. And as Dan is saying, when we grow the ecosystem, we'll do it even more.
And the one other thing I'd like to highlight there with the small and medium enterprises, when I talked about innovation and the Block 3 Super Hornet having the ability to do some of that quick development and innovative problem solving, I think that's what we find in much of our supply bases. That's really where the small businesses shine. Their innovative approach, their ability to go fast and think differently. We certainly leverage that in our existing supply base and are very much looking forward to leveraging that in India for the Block 3 program. I see a question out there about third-party quality assurance. So that's something we do today in the U.S. with every platform that we build. The U.S. government has a third party called the DCMA, and they are certainly involved in any foreign military sale. And we also work with auditors and third-party programs to make sure that our quality system is good, our supply chain system is good. So definitely, yes, we do pull in third parties to help us. We have a strong quality pedigree inside the Boeing company, and so that foundation, our quality approach, to how we build every product and platform is something we bring to any aerospace ecosystem. And I see another question up there about partnering with HAL. So we have announced HAL and Mahindra as our two partners to build the airplane. So think of that as that final assembly and checkout facility where we pull it together and it starts to look like an airplane. A long track record of working with HAL, building components on F-18 and for our other platforms. Their expertise in building airplanes in India is unparalleled, which is why we've partnered with them. And then we bring Mahindra on board with their strong manufacturing experience, innovation, and aerospace experience. They also build airplanes. We think we have a really strong partnership there, but we are excited to be working with HAL to build this program, and we think they have the right expertise, experience, and infrastructure to do that. They are really the leaders in India building platforms today. Next question I see is, what is Boeing's strategy, experience in fitting made in India products onto Boeing platforms as opposed to manufacturing engineering services? So on our platforms today, we do integrate Indian systems at the customer's discretion onto our platforms. I won't go into specifics about what they are, but that's a concept that we have offered and envisioned for a Block 3 Super Hornet program for the Navy or for the Air Force. We know that there are Indian-made systems that the Indian government will want on their platforms. We know how to do that. We have done that. We'll continue to do that. We're also working with the same partners to see if there's applicability in the global market for those products. So a lot of our engagement to date that I talked about is about manufacturing components for the platforms. It is not just engineering. It is manufacturing $1 billion plus of goods and services bought each year. And we envision expanding that with a Block 3 program, a Make in India fighter program. And certainly we're very comfortable taking Indian equipment and working it in conjunction with the Indian government and the US government to integrate it into our platforms to deliver the capability that the Indian Navy or Indian Air Force desire. Any other questions? Oh, I see one over there. What is Boeing's strategy experience in? Oh no, we did that one. Okay. I see the comment there about the avionics systems and subsystems. Absolutely, and software development. Absolutely. We have components from HAL. Some of that indigenous. Okay.
One more question, which is there is HAL also supports. One question is, can you please elaborate on value chain quality metrics?
Well, that could be a big topic in and of itself. I'll just say that the quality system, the Boeing quality system that we use to manufacture our products is certainly shared and flowed down throughout our supply chain. For Super Hornet, again, those 800 suppliers. So we work together with our partners as they're developing the products they're going to build for us to put the right quality checks in place, both along the way as you're building the product, and then finally, the ultimate end article testing. The metrics we use are consistent across our factories and our supply chain factories, and that's a deep engagement, and that's one of the reasons we're working so much in advance with the skills side of things and the partnership with some of the associations in India to develop the capability, is so we get the quality right from the start. It's much easier to build quality in as you're going than to try to inspect it in at the end. And that's the approach we take with all the work that we do, and certainly when we're doing work transfers and building an ecosystem like we have been and will do in India.
What kind of precautions would you be taking to prevent supply chain infections?
Supply chain, I'm sorry, what was the last word?
Supply chain infections.
Infections. So it's that collaborative approach. It is starting, again, you can't just show up in India and build a fighter. You have to have the foundation laid. And our foundation on the defense side goes back more than a decade. So that you build from the ground up a stable ecosystem, a stable supply chain. We build very complicated parts. We build very complicated airplanes. So taking the time to get the base done and get the infrastructure right is the best way to prevent problems down the road. Now, we always have problems. I mean, it is complicated work that we do. And so when you have a problem, it's a collaborative engagement with Boeing and our partners working together to solve the problems, both the specific problem to fix it, to restore health to the supply chain, and then the systemic problem so that it doesn't happen again, and so that we share lessons learned across industry, so that other companies and partners don't repeat those same problems. So a proactive engagement at the grassroots level to build an infrastructure is our best medicine there. And then when we have a problem, a collaborative engagement to solve the problem, both short term and long term, is how we group that together.
I'll request the audience, in case there are any more questions, they can be posed.
Well, I guess we don't have any live questions for now, so we would end the session, the question answer session right away. With this, I would thank you, Mr. Dan Gillian, for your time and your such an educative session. And joining us from Washington D.C. at such an early hour. This is, I guess, this is 5:30 a.m., which started at Washington D.C. We have had a very
Right.
good participation, and please, the audience, do not forget to rate us in the poll, which is being flashed on your screen right away. With this, now I transfer to Brigadier Arora for a few words. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dan. It was indeed a very interesting and enlightening talk for us. And we are grateful to you for having generously accepted our request, and you could dedicate time at this early hour in the morning, as Bhumika said. And I, on behalf of Aero India organizers and Department of Defense Production of Government of India, thank you very much for making this webinar a success and giving your very, very valuable contributions to the topic that we discussed today. Thank you once again. And I hand over back to you, Bhumika, for the closure.
Thank you, sir. Please note that all these webinars for Aero India have been posted on the YouTube Learning channel, that is Digital India Learning channel. You can watch all the webinars there, the previous ones as well as this one. This is also being streamed live. With this, I would truly thank everyone who have put in their time for all these webinars. These webinars were a success of the upcoming trends, and the successes already being made in the domain of air defense, knowledge sharing, and the learning in the digital way. I, on behalf of National E-Governance Division, Digital India, and the entire Aero India team, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for all these webinars, for gracing your important work and sharing with us your researches, your work, your findings. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling months ago, and it requires a lot of planning, a lot of detailing. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of our motivated and dedicated colleagues. Now, before I end, I would like to mention that I'm extremely grateful to all these people whose support is the reason we could all collaborate for this initiative. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation and gratitude to Mr. M.S. Rao, President, Chief Executive Officer, National E-Governance Division, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Secretary, Defense Production, Mr. Barun Mitra, Additional Secretary, Defense Production, Mr. Vijendra, Joint Secretary, Naval System, CVO, DDP, for all these people for providing us the encouragement and this opportunity. I would also express my thanks to Mr. Dan Gillian for giving an excellent coverage on this topic today, and joining us from Washington, D.C. at this hour. I would also thank Brigadier Pradeep Arora from Defense Production, Captain Roy Joseph, also from Department of Defense Production, the team at HAL Bangalore, and last but not the least, the Digital India LMS team here at NEGD for making all these pre-event webinars a success, a huge success. Uh, and also all the participants for joining us sincerely for all these webinars. A great thank you to all of you. With this, we now conclude this webinar series for Aero India 2019. I hope you all have enjoyed and gained immense knowledge. Hope to see you at the Aero India show at Bangalore from 20th to 24th February 2019. Continue learning. Happy learning. Jai Hind.